Hey. I've heard the out of this world story from our space. It's not about coping or being complacent with infidelity. It's about moving on. We can't get past the hurt if we don't want to stop hurting. We need to be able to want to move on. So today on our space, let's stop feeling sorry for ourselves and move forward. Up first, avoid being played and being the first one to go. Girlfriend of 4 years cheated twice and then moved in with her side piece. How do I cope? I, 22 male, had been with this girl, 23 female, for 4 years. We were incredibly close, the both of us. We did almost everything together. It really felt like a truly incredible loving relationship that would last forever. I'm assuming you'll hear that a lot though. Now, obviously I regret it, but I gave everything I could to her. I used to work this crappy job that I hated while I was in school to pay for plane tickets to see her. We were long distance for the first year and a half of our relationship, although we'd stay with each other during winter and summer breaks from school. I regret doing it, especially now, because I hindered my own development as a person in school and life goals just to be there for her, to help her, to build her up. But a couple of months ago, I found out the first time. She said she was going to see someone from work, whom I knew and trusted, but she'd be back by evening. What she didn't tell me was she went there with a friend she met from work. It was already late evening, and I was wondering where she was. So I checked my Snap map and found she was at some random house. I called her. She picked up almost immediately and was clearly upset that I had called. I asked what she was doing. She said that she was just resting in a friend's house for a bit, as the person she visited from work lived far away. I didn't believe her, and I was upset, so I persisted. Why would you be alone at some random guy's house, whom I've never met before? She swore to me it was nothing. She cried, she argued, and even blamed me for being too much in her business. I let off, but afterward, she became suspiciously much more clingy. A couple days later, I was suspicious. I peeked at her phone and saw she was texting somebody. I told her if it was that guy, and she said yes. At that point, I was pissed, and I demanded I see the texts. She argued and screamed and told me I was out of line, that I am invading her privacy. Eventually, she caved and admitted that she slept with him that night. She showed me her phone, and nothing could compare to the amount of pain I felt reading those texts. The guy was very clearly hitting on her, even boasting about how good a lay she was and how he probably got her close to climax. This was the girl I gave my life for he was talking about. I guess she loved the attention. I was destroyed and so upset. I yelled at her, everything in the book. She was crying, pleading, and begging for me to forgive her. She told me she actually hated the guy. She told me that the sex wasn't actually good. She told me she learned that she actually likes me more and she was just curious, experimenting. I stopped talking to her for almost a week. I told family and friends. They were hopeful, but they didn't tell me I should cut her off because they knew how close we were and they knew I'd go back to her. I did go back to her. She immediately told me everything in the book to win my heart back. She said we were made for each other. She said God gave me the strength to forgive her and that He wants us to be together. Nearly every day, she wouldn't waste an opportunity to tell me how great I was and how I was perfect for her. She even planned a week-long romantic trip together, just for me and her, to show how much she cared. This will come up again later. I told her she had to get rid of the guy, and she blocked his number in front of me and told me she confronted him and told him he had to get out of her life. Problem was, they worked together, and they were in the same friend group. And as I would learn, although not specifically, they could contact each other through other ways. She didn't do enough to get rid of him, just enough to hide it from me. Almost a month passed by, and one day, she seemed to start cracking. She talked to me privately and told me that she's been having selfish thoughts. She never told me what. The next day, when I was feeling bad and tried to turn to her for comfort, she seemed to snap. She told me she couldn't do it anymore, that she was a terrible person, and that she would rather die than face the consequences of her actions. In my heart, I knew it was over. But I stupidly, desperately wanted to keep the high of our relationship alive, so I comforted her and told her she could push through, as at the time I believed she did get rid of him and was actually trying to move forward with this relationship. The day after that, she told me she was going out to dinner with friends, and that in order for her to cool down and have a good time, that I wouldn't be allowed to text her at all during her outing. She made sure to mention all the friends she was going with, all whom I trusted. She promised it was just a dinner. In my head, I thought this might be good for me, because if I could power through the fear of her lying to me that day, I could grow my trust in her. Problem was, she was lying. Again. She told me she would text me when she left after work. She didn't, and that's when I got worried. She turned Snap Map off, so I checked our timeline on Google. She was heading for the house again. My heart bursted immediately, and I called her. I asked her what she was doing. She was again clearly upset that I called her. She told me that she couldn't get rid of him completely because he was in her friend group, and that they were just meeting at his house before they went out. I called BS, and she retreated to blaming me again, telling me all my flaws, saying crap like maybe she should dump me, that I'm just not compatible with her, that I'm the problem. She said she stopped somewhere once I called. I drove to her location, and lo and behold, the side piece was in the car with her. Once I pulled up, they both got out of the car and kissed each other and made sure I saw it. I was destroyed. I blocked her on everything. I never spoke to her again after that. She tried to stay in contact with me to my friend, who she messaged on Instagram. She kept telling him that she still loved and cared about me, that she wants him not to block her so she can make sure I'm okay. She said she wanted me to move on. I requested that we have a last talk since we never got a chance, as she rebuffed every time saying it's too fresh and that I need more time to think. My friend finally blocked her recently. In my head, I was going through all the different scenarios trying to manifest a reality where she did love me, that she was just confused and she just needed time apart. I was in massive amounts of emotional pain thinking about everything for days on end. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even sleep in my own bed because I'd be reminded of her there next to me. I lost weight because I couldn't eat. I stopped doing any of my hobbies because nothing made me happy anymore. Eventually, recently, I was recommended her new side piece's Instagram. And you remember that romantic vacation we planned together? Well, she took her side piece with her on it instead of me. I was unimaginably pissed. At that point, I knew everything I needed to know, and I didn't want to talk to her anymore. I don't want to know why. Because now I know why. She's a horrible, horrible effing person. She did it because she's selfish and never even thought or cared about how I would feel. I'm just left here, shattered, and she's off doing whatever with her new piece. It's so unfair. It's infuriating. I never did anything to deserve this treatment. I never did any wrong to her, unless if she thinks me finding out she's a cheater is doing her wrong. I don't understand why I have to be treated like that and why I deserve to feel this way. She should be the one suffering. It's so painful, so unimaginably painful. 4 years of my life just feel like a complete waste, like I was played for 4 years. The community responds. Regular Bat 4449 says, just remember that you dodged the bullet. This behavior would have occurred much later, after marriage. OP. The moment you found out she slept with him should have been the moment it ended. Made for each other? Yeah, okay. While some other guy is inside her who apparently isn't good in bed. To kiss him right in front of you? Man, I'd be gutted too. And I wouldn't want to have anything to do with her or be in her world where there was ever a chance for us to be back together. You're right. You didn't do anything to deserve that treatment. It's only painful if we stay in the pain. We have to try to move on and move forward. We can't fester in the hurt. Update. Why did she immediately beg for me back? I don't understand how someone could do this. It's something among other things that keeps me up at night. After I found out the first time, she immediately burst into tears and begged for forgiveness. She told me everything she thought I wanted to hear. I know I should have dropped her right then. I really regret not doing that. But how could you cheat on someone, beg for their back, try and say everything to comfort them, and make them feel like you're committed, only to do it again and ruin everything? Then immediately get back with the affair partner and move on with him. I just don't understand. It hurts so much that everything during that period was a lie. Everything she did or said, all for nothing. It feels like I've been violated, like I've just been used and discarded like a toy. Why wouldn't she just end it? Every night I wish she could have just ended it instead of cheat on me and put me through torture. The Cutity comes in for more support. Big Bad Booty Daddy 10 says, cheaters are cake eaters. In cheating, your wife did not pick the other man over you. Your wife picked both you and the other man over just you. That is why she did it behind your back instead of just leaving you to be with the other man. It is a matter of simple math. No matter how much better you are than the other man, you plus the other man is always going to be greater than you alone. Mathematically, if the other man's desirability rating equals X and your desirability rating equals Y, then X plus Y would always be greater than X, no matter what X or Y were. X plus Y is greater than Y. To a cheater, this would always be true no matter how hard you work to push your rating up, as you would always be competing against yourself. Switchboard Friend chimes in. It's what happens as they run out of options. You caught her. This is bad for her because most affairs aren't exit affairs. They are distractions to paper over to the cracks in the short term. You were never meant to find out, so she was totally unprepared for what might happen as a result of her betrayal being unearthed. So she attempted to move things back to the status quo. She made lots of promises, excuses, and said she'd do anything in the hope that something stuck and you wouldn't leave. She may have even believed that she could make good on them at the time. But basically, she wanted the bad things to stop happening to her immediately and to get back in control and have things happen to the timeline she wants. All these promises were made quickly without any thought as to whether she had the will to deliver them or the capability. All this was done whilst there was a clear and present threat that you would leave and she'd be left high and dry. However, as time moved on, the temptation of a affair partner was just too much. The threat of you leaving was pretty much alleviated. She wanted both you and a affair partner. She had time to process what to do as the pressure of D-Day was over, and she could really think about what she wanted and how to get it. Your relationship with her was strained, but basically at status quo, in her view, she could manage it, so she felt able to recommence with the affair partner. It probably started up again as something small. You okay? Which grew, and soon they were back at it because she failed no contact. When she was discovered the second time, she lost you as an option. As a affair partner is now a choice of one she moved on with him. He was the only remaining option. Other than a total loss, that is, and she didn't want that. Besides, if she didn't move on with him, then all this would have been for nothing. She has a point to prove. Fragrant Spray chimes in. She wanted to keep your relationship until she was sure that the affair partner would commit. That's why she apologized at first when you caught her. She was still working on getting that commitment from the affair partner, though, and left once she did. You were the backup plan. Your willingness to fall for it once probably makes her believe you might take her back if the new relationship doesn't work out. Go no contact forever. Don't ever be someone's backup plan. She didn't drop you because she wanted to have her cake and eat it too. You were feeding her ego, and he was feeding her ego. Cheaters like the chase, and they live off the fact that they can be caught at any movement. Why else would she keep her Snapchat location on? She got off on it. What do you think? Up next, leave the no-good cheater in the past. It's not worth taking them back. So confused and can't think straight. Found out my husband of over 20 years was having an affair for a couple of years. We divorced very quickly because he told me he loved her. After the divorce, he immediately told me he cut it off with her and he loved me and wanted to rebuild. He went to therapy and I slowly started seeing him again. I did ask him some questions about the affair, and I didn't feel like he was telling the truth. I just feel like my life hasn't been real for the last 2 years and want to understand my life. I don't want there to be any lies between us. I recently read messages on his phone and realized he lied. Told me he hadn't bought her gifts, took pictures with her, etc. Things not worth lying about. He said he lied to spare me the pain and that I should have asked him those questions in the first place. I forgive him for the affair. I just want my life to be real. I don't think it's wrong to want honesty, so I can feel like we were building intimacy and trust. It's only been a few months, so it's still hard. He says I ruined any chances of us rebuilding because I read the messages. He says I ruined us. I just wanted to know what was real. He has protected that phone for years and I never snooped. Was I wrong? Am I so hurt? I wanted to move forward, but wanted to know if I was moving forward in reality and not lies. I am hurting so incredibly much. The community has some advice. Lucy2213 says, that is another level of blame shifting and playing the victim and gaslighting. Nekawai19 adds, exactly. You ruined us by finding out that I lied after I cheated. This is all your fault. How dare you? The audacity of this man. And OP has been manipulated for so long that you can't even see him doing it anymore and is feeling guilty. Dump him, OP. You already divorced him. The hard steps are already over. Don't fall for his lies again. Mysterious Teaching 30 adds, so it wasn't that he was screwing someone else that ruined the relationship. It was that you looked through his phone. Blame shifting and gaslighting. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. Treat him like the lying philanderer he is and never speak to him again. Honestly, you were wrong, OP. You just wanted someone to control, and that was you. This isn't reality. In order to properly move forward in a life that is real, you have to leave it. It's as simple as that. You didn't ruin it. You ruined it in the moment he chose to cheat on you. Screw him. Leave him. There's no room for him in your future. What are your thoughts? And lastly, don't play games. Tell me this isn't cheating. Last night I found out my boyfriend of 5 years was searching up hookups in our area and escorts during the summer. I guess my whole relationship has been a lie. My poor son, who's only 6 months old, is now going to have to grow up in a split family like I did because this scumbag couldn't be a genuine loyal man to me. Guess that's what I get for putting my love into the wrong person. He ruined everything we had going for us. I hope it was worth it. I confronted him and he freaked on me, saying that it was his friend who was using his Google account because his friend didn't want to make an account when it takes 2 seconds to do so. He even got his friend to agree he had the account via messages, which is some BS because it looks scripted as F. I'm done playing games. He can go do whatever he wants now. I'm not putting up with this. I deserve better. Jolly Jilly from the community says, I don't have children, but my stepfather, the provider of the household, cheated on my mother and she stayed. I'll tell you what this did to her children. My brother sees her as weak and doesn't respect her. I, female, have struggled for years in relationships, making countless excuses for crappy men and putting myself on the back burner. Our relationships, especially early ones, tend to model the relationships we saw growing up. Think about what you want to teach your son to accept and how he should treat the person he chooses to spend his life with. Not everyone is deserving of forgiveness or a second chance. It's never too late to start putting your self-respect first. Your son will be better off for it. Alarming Pancakes chimes in. I found my husband, boyfriend at the time, making posts on Craigslist for hookups when we were about 2 years in. He had a lot of lame excuses, but the intent was there. We eventually got past it. Fast forward 5 years, we are married, have a 6-month-old, seemingly happy. He screws his coworker in a one-time deal thing. I only found out about it because I read his Apple Watch and confronted him. Plus, it's the only time his location on his phone isn't at home or at work. I stay with him because I didn't want my son to grow up in a broken home. My son is almost 2 now. My husband has not cheated further, but I'm always looking over my shoulder. It feels like I'm lying in wait. If I were to go back to when he cheated 18 months ago, I would have made the same decision for my son, to give it another chance. If I were to go back 6 years ago where he started to try to cheat, I would leave him. I should have left him then. Of course, I still love him now, but it would have saved me so much heartbreak. I think it's funny how cheaters can just blatantly lie to their partners and literally think that we won't put 2 and 2 together. His friend's account? Really? What an idiot. You do deserve better, OP. Tell us an absurd lie that your partner tried to get away with in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. We'd hate for you to miss out. And if you want to listen to more stories from me, check out Our Lounge, where I feature a larger variety of non-cheating related stories. See you there.